Typhoon signal number 8 will be issued between 2 and 5 a.m. tomorrow. Preparations are underway for the approach of Super Typhoon Saola, and school classes will be canceled tomorrow. And a military takeover in the African nation of Gabon. Hello and welcome to TVB News. The strong wind signal number 3 is currently in force, and the Hong Kong Observatory will issue the gale or storm signal number 8 between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. tomorrow. This as Super Typhoon Saola moves closer to the region, even though the weather appeared more or less fine during the day. Timothy Lee has our top story.
Super Typhoon Saola is edging ever closer to Hong Kong. This morning, the wind around areas in Sai Ho began to pick up. Trees were shaking, flags fluttered on boats. Many residents swarmed markets and bakeries to stock up on food and other supplies, preparing for the worst. This woman came to buy vegetables, but she said everything was sold out. But things look different from the Victoria Harbour waterfront in Tsim Sha Tsui. People could be seen walking by the pier. Some tourists said they were unafraid of the impending storm.
I don't feel like there's any danger, as it's like another day. I feel like it's gonna rain, not today, because the weather is good.
We heard about the weather warnings yesterday, but yeah, as the weather is good right now and it's really sunny and many people are outside, we didn't worry about it. We were like, okay, if it's going to be bad, then we can still return to the hostel.
It's calm before the storm for much of today. Even though the tropical cyclone warning signal number 1 came into effect on Wednesday evening, the weather is still fine in some coastal areas, such as the Tsim Sha Tsui promenade at around noon. Looking ahead, the observatory expects Tropical Cyclone Saola to reach the Pearl River Delta between tomorrow and Saturday, adding the weather will significantly worsen with strong winds and thunderstorms. Currently, the tropical cyclone is moving at 10 kilometers per hour along the eastern coast of Guangdong and is located around 370 kilometers southeast of Hong Kong. Former Assistant Director of the Observatory, Leung Wing Mo, said he believes the tropical cyclone will coincide with the spring tide in the next 2 days, which could cause serious flooding in the SAR. He said the strength of Saola could be similar to 1962's Typhoon Wanda, one of the worst typhoons to have ever hit Hong Kong, killing 130 people. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
With Super Typhoon Saola on its way to the region, the observatory is not ruling out issuing the top-level typhoon warning signal number 10. Evacuation and other preparations for the approach of the storm are underway in the city's flood-prone areas. Jackie Lin reports.
Gearing up for Super Typhoon Saola, the government held an interdepartmental meeting to explain plans to cope with the approaching storm. Announced in a joint press conference, the number 8 gale or storm signal is poised to be issued in the early hours of Friday, with Saola set to be closest to Hong Kong later on Friday and early on Saturday. Authorities are not ruling out the issuance of the highest level of warning, hurricane signal number 10.
In our weather forecast, we already forecast that hurricane force winds are possible over offshore waters and on high ground. If that really happened, then the issuance of typhoon signal number 10 is possible.
All classes at kindergartens, primary and secondary schools will be cancelled tomorrow, meaning next Monday will be the first day of school for local students in the new school year. The observatory is expecting flood-prone areas to see storm surges. In Tolo Harbour, tide heights could go 5 meters above regular water levels tomorrow night to midnight, reaching the level seen in 1962 when Typhoon Wanda battered the city. Victoria Harbour and Tai O are expected to be affected by inundation before midday Saturday. As the storm surge level could be comparable to that of Typhoon Mangkhut in 2018, the government said preparations are underway.
The evacuation work is now in progress. Our staff has already started work. And then for extreme case, a very bad weather condition or very bad traffic condition. And I hope that under such situation, the employer should be more accommodating to their staff.
Temporary shelters will open earlier than usual at 8 p.m. tonight, with more staff dispatched to support citizens in need. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
The mainland's weather authorities forecasted Super Typhoon Saola could make landfall in areas around Guangdong's Hualai County and Hong Kong between tomorrow afternoon and evening. Local weather authorities issued a red alert for the tropical cyclone and noted it may be the strongest typhoon recorded in the province in over 7 decades. Schools in cities such as Shenzhen, Zhuhai, and Chaozhou delayed the start of the school year to the coming Monday. In areas along the border of Fujian and Guangdong provinces, tides were noticeably stronger, caused by strong winds, with some as high as 7 meters expected to affect the region. 34 people were injured after a school bus and a bus collided on Lantau Island this morning. After an initial investigation, police suspect the crash was caused by the driver of the school bus steering the vehicle into the opposite lane. Mimo Sangai reports.
After the accident, the school bus was half tilted, with one side of the vehicle seriously damaged. The windshield of the bus was smashed. The bus driver was injured and trapped. Firemen helped passengers out of the stricken bus. Meanwhile, students waited on the side of the road. Some of them looked frightened and needed to be comforted by others. The collision happened before 8 a.m. this morning. The school bus was heading towards Discovery Bay from Tu Mun, and the bus was on its way to Sunny Bay. I saw the school bus driver steering the vehicle into the opposite lane. Then the crash happened, the bus driver said. A student said the bus driver fainted just before the crash. Choi Zhentong, Superintendent of New Territories South Command, said an initial investigation shows it was the school bus that left its original lane and crossed into the opposite direction, leading to the accident. The driver was arrested on suspicion of dangerous driving causing grievous bodily harm. 34 injured people were sent to different hospitals, including Princess Margaret and Northern Lantau. Mimo Sanai, TVB News.
Soldiers in Gabon have proclaimed their Republican Guard chief as the country's leader after placing the just re-elected president, Ali Bongo Ondimba, under house arrest. The coup leader said on state TV that General Brice Oligui Nguema would act as president of a transitional committee. They accuse Bongo of betrayal and massive embezzlement. Nazvi Karim has more.
Ali Bongo Ondimba thought he was entering year 56 of what was effectively a family dynasty of Gabon rulers. But instead of celebrating another presidential election victory, Bongo was placed under house arrest by coup leaders, accused of betrayal and multiple forms of corruption. General Brice Oligui Nguema, according to reports Bongo's cousin, was placed in charge of the Central African country as president of a transitional committee. In a video released on Tuesday, Bongo had this message for the people of Gabon.
So I'm calling you to make noise, really.
And make noise they did, but not the kind Bongo wanted. In the capital Libreville, at least, where Bongo is deeply unpopular, they were mostly celebrating.
C'est la libération de tout un pays.
This man said the coup represents the liberation of the country, something he has dreamed about, adding that God has answered their prayers. The United Nations, African Union and France, Gabon's former colonial power, condemned the coup. Nigeria and the West African ECOWAS bloc expressed concern and said they would be monitoring the situation. Critics say much of the wealth from Gabon's natural resources has failed to trickle down to the poor, with unemployment at 40% in 2020. Sherpa, a French NGO dedicated to accountability, said 9 members of Bongo's family are under investigation in France for cases involving embezzlement and money laundering. Bongo has been in power since 2009, taking over from his father, Omar, who was the country's leader for 41 years. They have imposed a 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew and vowed to restore stability as soon as possible. In Beijing, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said China is following developments and called on relevant parties to focus on fundamental interests of the country and resolve differences peacefully through dialogue.
The administration of U.S. President Joe Biden has approved a military transfer to Taiwan under the Foreign Military Financing, or FMF, program, which is normally reserved for sovereign states. According to a notification sent to Congress and seen by Reuters, the State Department plans to free up $80 million in FMF funds in support of Taiwan. The funds will be used to strengthen Taiwan's self-defense capabilities, the notification said. Taiwan's defense ministry expressed its thanks, but said it had no comment on the details of the aid. The U.S. State Department said the decision to provide Taiwan with FMF assistance did not reflect any change in Washington's One China policy. In Beijing, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said the FMF move severely violates the One China principle and undermines China's sovereignty and security interests. Foreign Minister Wang Yi held talks with his British counterpart, James Cleverly, in Beijing on Wednesday. Cleverly's trip to China was the first made by a British foreign secretary in over 5 years. During their meeting, Wang said China has always attached importance to the UK's status as a great power. He said Beijing has committed itself to stable and mutually beneficial China-UK relations and always believes that China-UK cooperation has global influence. Wang said amid the volatile international situation, China and the UK should work together to safeguard world peace and stability. On Taiwan, Cleverly said the government's position on the island remains unchanged and that Westminster adheres to the One China policy. He acknowledged Britain and China's views on various issues may differ, but stated the UK is committed to strengthening communication with Beijing. Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said he would compile measures to help the fishing industry hit by China's ban on Japanese seafood. The ban came after Japan released treated radioactive wastewater from the crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant into the ocean last week. Kishida was visiting Tokyo's biggest fish market just a day after eating Fukushima sashimi with 3 cabinet ministers in an effort to dispel safety concerns over eating seafood from the area. He was seen talking to vendors, vowing to overturn the import restrictions, which he said had no scientific basis. He also ate some local octopus. Kishida said the government will tap into its budget reserves to help develop new sales channels and keep excess fish frozen until they can be sold when demand recovers. China was Japan's biggest seafood export market in 2022, followed by Hong Kong. Still ahead, in the U.S., Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell freezes up again while talking to reporters. More than 60 people killed in a fire in South Africa. And local singer Tommy Yun sentenced to 26 months in prison after pleading guilty to sedition and money laundering. Welcome back. Top U.S. Senate Republican Mitch McConnell froze for more than 30 seconds and was unable to answer a question posed to him by a reporter at an event in Kentucky on Wednesday. It was the second such incident in a little more than a month. Tracy Furness has more.
What are your thoughts on running for re-election in 2026?
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
That's
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026? All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute.
McConnell went on to answer a few questions after he froze. But this latest incident in Covington, Kentucky adds to the questions in recent months about McConnell's health and whether the Kentucky Republican will remain in leadership. McConnell's office said afterwards that he was feeling momentarily lightheaded and would see a doctor before his next event. McConnell had a similar reaction when he froze for 20 seconds at a news conference in the Capitol in late July. The 81-year-old was first elected to the Senate in 1984 and has served as GOP leader since 2007. President Joe Biden was asked later in the day if he was concerned about McConnell's health.
I just heard literally coming out, and Mitch is a friend, as you know, not a joke. We always, I know people don't believe that's the case, but we have disagreements politically, but he's a good friend, and so I'm going to try to get in touch with him later this afternoon. I don't know enough to know.
In March, McConnell suffered a concussion and a broken rib after falling and hitting his head after a dinner event at a hotel. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Some 70 people were killed and over 40 injured as a fire tore through a multi-story building in the central business district of South Africa's largest city, Johannesburg, overnight. The death toll is expected to rise further. An emergency services spokesperson said at least one child was among the dead. The spokesperson said the building was effectively an informal settlement where homeless people had moved in looking for accommodation without any formal lease agreements. As many as 200 people are estimated to have been living there. Authorities said the fire had been largely extinguished, but smoke could still be seen seeping out of the building's windows. It's not immediately clear what caused the blaze. Singer Tommy Yuen has been sentenced to 26 months in prison after pleading guilty to sedition and money laundering-related charges. The district court heard that Yuen posted multiple inflammatory remarks on social media between September 2021 and January last year. They include making seditious statements about the death of a Marine police officer in an anti-smuggling operation, cursing another police officer who was bitten by a boar, and mocking a national security judge who was on leave due to a heart condition. He also laundered more than $700,000 raised through crowdfunding. In passing the sentence, Judge Ernest Lin said Yuen had made up stories to exploit people's sympathy and incite anger against the government for his own gain. The police have arrested a 20-year-old man on suspicion of indecently assaulting an 18-year-old woman during a University of Hong Kong orientation event in Yuen Long. Sources say the arrested man is also a HKU student. The incident allegedly happened during an orientation event held by the Nursing Society. While the student is said to be a member of Hong Kongese Nursing Society, he reportedly does not study that degree. The news of the alleged incident assault came after a female freshman shared a post on a social media platform, claiming she had been assaulted by a senior student. The government began its 2-month public consultation today on tightening its air quality objectives. The latest air quality health index has been in force since January last year. In the government's proposal, it suggested that the indices for 3 types of pollutants be tightened. They include lowering the 24-hour upper limit for sulfur dioxide from 50 micrograms per cubic meter to 40. In addition, the lowering of respirable suspended particles, also known as PM10, from 100 micrograms to 75. Plans, too, to introduce 3 new parameters to the 5 prevailing air quality objectives, according to the World Health Organization's global air quality guidelines. They include nitrogen dioxide, ozone, and carbon monoxide. That's the news. Stay dry and stay safe tomorrow. Bye for now.